On this Roll for Crit preview, we are taking a look at the newest addition to the World of Mysthia line of games. It's called Volfyirion Guilds. This is a follow-up / successor to the original Volfyirion. It is a standalone version of that game with some new mechanics, but it's also an expansion. You can mix the cards together if you already have that original set or if you're planning on picking it up alongside this one. And like I said, it throws some new things in there, but at its core, it's a deck building game, and most of the same basic rules apply to both versions of it.
So right now you can see we have only the new cards showing off here, but it's gonna be the basic same core rules. In this game, your goal is to take out all your opponent's cities. Each one has a defense value, though they can be buffed by other cards. You're gonna try to get enough attack points to destroy all of them, and therefore being the last one standing. This is a head-to-head deck builder. Now, like many deck builders, you'll be buying cards, playing cards from your hand, and when your deck runs out, shuffling them. So nothing too complicated there. So on your turn, you're going to have 5 cards in hand usually, and you're going to have the ability to play them. They come in a variety of flavors, different colors, but the big thing to note is that they usually will give 3 different kinds of points. We're going to start off with command points. They're the simplest ones. They're how you gain cards from this row here. It's when you buy them. When you buy them, you will add them to your discard. The next thing to look at are battle points. This is one of the main ways you're going to win the game. They have swords. They can be generated to either A, as I stated before, take out a city, or they can go towards this lair. You see the Volfyirion, the dragon, is sitting up here with his wonders, his treasures. And if you're able to get 16 damage, you take out the dragon and you actually claim the lair as your own city, another city for you to have. So that means more resources and more things to play there. For each city can hold a building and a troop and no more. You can replace them, but you can only have so many slots. So it's nice to have more space. Now, let's say you don't have enough to kill the dragon, or maybe you don't want to. You like him. He's not doing too much trouble for you right now. For now, you can actually gain one of these wonders. Each one has a cost, still with battle points, and when you gain them, they go in your discard, but once you play them, unlike most cards you play, unlike the putting into the city, they just stay out. They don't take up a slot here. They just are nice out in the open, so you can gaining a lot of those are very helpful. But be warned, whenever you gain one, you have to destroy and remove from the game a card from your hand, in play, or discard pile, which actually might be a good thing as well, depending on how you think and what card you have. So that is another great way to use battle points. But finally, we have knowledge points. This one has a lot of different uses. These are these purple crystals here. So first off, the simple thing is messing around with the lineup here. You can spend 2 of them to take 1 card and place it on the bottom of the deck. If you do so, you take the top card, which will be face up, and place it in its spot, which means now you may purchase it using command points and see what else is coming up. Now, if you have more, there are some other things you can do. You can seal or unseal wonders. Each wonder has its own sealing cost, and you can spend that to either seal someone's, probably an opponent's, meaning it is turned off, or you can spend it to unseal it, probably yours, because an opponent has sealed yours. Some cards have second abilities. They could be things like, all the wonders have, you may destroy this card to do something. In this case, these cards will say if you have other cards of that banner type, there are 3 different banners, 4 actually including the gray, like I think those are neutral ones, to get additional bonuses. So make sure you also stack your deck so your cards can become even more powerful when paired up with the right units. Finally, there's, once again, this dragon. Apparently, if you have 8 knowledge, you have enough to tell the dragon to go visit your opponent's city. That isn't very good for your opponent, for if the dragon is there at the end of an opponent's turn, it destroys that city, regardless of how much defenses it has. You just can't take out the dragon that well. So being able to convince the dragon to go there is a really good boon for you and really put your opponent on a timer.
So those are the core mechanics that you'll be familiar with if you've had experience with the original Volfyirion. It's pretty much the same thing. As you can tell, you're going to go through collecting cards, building your deck, using their actions until you can destroy your opponent's cities. But Volfyirion Guilds does add some new things in addition to just an entirely new pool of cards with different abilities and artwork and everything. There are some new mechanics in play as well. The biggest one that you may have noticed already is that next to your 3 cities, you've also got a guild vault. vault. So this is not a fourth city, but it is another permanent kind of card that's going to stay out from the beginning of the game. Its primary use has to do with this slot here. Now, not only can you store these troops and buildings, you can also throw in a command card into that slot. You can only store one command card in that slot at a time, and at the start of your turn, you have the option of taking it into your hand and being able to use it on your turn. You won't be able to add another one in there during the same turn you take one. You'll have to wait a little while, but essentially this gives you the ability to plan for a future turn when maybe there's a key significant card, maybe you have a certain banner with a certain ability that you want to make sure you have at the opportune moment later on. Of course, there's some danger there because there's now some abilities that will allow people to destroy the card you have stored in the vault, so you might not want to keep it there for too long if you're worried about that happening. This also has some new abilities once you start to lose cities. So previously, if your cities were destroyed, you were just 1 foot in the grave and that was it. But now there's a little bit of a consolation prize. If you lose one city, you gain a new ability here. You can spend 4 command points and trade them in for different amounts of battle and or knowledge points. So if you're not needing those command points anymore, maybe your deck is already pretty full, or you just have specific things you want to do with the other kinds of points, you can trade them in a little bit and you have more versatility, more options that way. If you end up getting down to just one of your cities, you will also unlock a permanent upgrade. Each turn you will be generating an additional battle and knowledge point. So if you're down to one city, you get all of the abilities on this card all at once. So you're in a bad position, but you will get a couple of little perks that hopefully will help you out towards the end of the game. There's also a new card type here. It's called the Agent. And the agent does not go on your field. It doesn't go into one of your cities. Instead, you place it on top of one of the face-up asset cards in this row. And no one can purchase that card until that agent is defeated by spending the needed battle points to attack it, beat its defense value the same way you would attack a city. So this is something you probably want to do if there's a card that you know would help your opponent. They're not able to cycle through it using knowledge points or anything. They have to go through it with battle points if they want to add that to their deck. So a way for you to just kind of annoy your opponent and mix up what's coming out on the field, perhaps. And you'll also notice some of these cards have additional symbols here. Those are known as acquiring abilities. Those take effect as soon as you take that card, you purchase it and add it to your deck, you get a little bonus. So for instance, here's the symbol that means you get to destroy your opponent's vault card. This symbol here means to foresee, which means you look at the top card of your deck and decide if you want to discard it or keep it on top, which is pretty handy if you're trying to shape your following turn, for instance. So just a few little things mixed in to give the game a different feel. Another big focus in Guilds is the solo mode. There are some new bosses that you'll be playing against, and depending on which one you have, they're going to have different types of actions that are going to be determined by which cards are being pulled out of the deck, which color banner they have, and they're also going to have a pool of cards that signify their life, and you're trying to remove all of their life cards before they are able to destroy your cities, just like the normal game. Fully solo mode, so if you can't get one other person to the table, that's something you can do. And that's pretty much all the new stuff in Guilds. Again, totally standalone. You don't need to buy the original game, but if you do have both, you can mix them together.
Now, this is a Kickstarter, and there are usually plenty of other goodies that, for ones they actually sent to us, so we can actually talk about those in addition to just what the game has to offer. I think the biggest one, we'll go with that since it's already on screen, is the collecting box.
Oh man, look at this baby. Yeah, so this is a huge box. You can see it's got room for playmats. It's actually gonna fit 4 playmats in the final version of it. And it also has its own dividers. there's the lid. It's got its own dividers so you can sort your cards. It's enough to fit 2 core sets plus the expansion plus some other stuff. There's also this booster pack which comes with some extra cards that comes with it, as well as a box of tokens, which you can use as markers for the various points you're generating on your turn. And some of this stuff will also be available as add-ons throughout the campaign. So if you don't want to go all in with the big box, but you want some of those goodies, that's something that you will be able to do. So a lot of different options. Oh yeah, and then we got this guy.
We got this dragon miniature, which is really cool. He actually comes with rules not just for Volfyirion, but for some of the other games in the universe as well. So depending on which games you have, you may be more interested. But for this game alone, we're going to go over what it adds. It has these stones that pop out from the base. You spend a combination of knowledge and battle equaling 10 to gain one of these. Now, I can't really show it on the camera that well because it's a little high up, but there are numbers on them. And on your turn, you may spend these shards, or a shard, to remove a card from an opponent's discard pile. The thing is, the value of the card plus the number on the shard, which is kept secret from your opponent, so they don't exactly know, must total 8 or higher. So these go from 1 to 5. If you have a 5-cost card, you can destroy all the way down to a 3. But if you only have a 1, you need at least a card that costs 7 or higher to destroy.
Yeah. Or you can do what I like to do, which is just use that to replace this guy.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. And also much more terrifying, like, he's visiting your city.
Yeah, much more of a dramatic table presence for sure. And so this was our first time playing any version of Volfyirion. We tried out the original core set before we checked out the new Guilds expansion. And it's a pretty neat little 2-player deck building game, I think, with some cool mechanics as well as some, tried and true stuff if you're a deck building fan. And I do think it's nice if you're familiar or not familiar, the new stuff in Guilds is it's not so intricate or complicated that you're gonna be lost. It's just a few little differences. There's a reason that they are, it's expandable as well, and you can mix them together, is that they do kind of are meant to blend with one another. So that's something that's good whether you're a newcomer to it and you don't want to get overwhelmed, or you're returning to the series. It's like just enough, I think, to mix it up. And of course, again, like all these cards are different too. So even without those new abilities, you're going to see a lot of the same symbols and things, but it's not the exact same versions of those cards. It's not a reskin. It is a totally new set of playing cards.
In terms of comparing it to other deck builder sets, especially with Guilds, I think in particular, versus the original base, there is a lot more here that sort of lets you tailor your deck to being less random. The wonders, which were in the original one, have you destroy cards, which I think is one of the most important mechanics in deck building because everyone wants to thin their deck out. So having that as a constant option is really great. But the guild now allowing you to pretty much store a card. Maybe you want a certain banner to make sure to activate. Maybe you want to save, for example, I use the captain here. He gives 3 attack. That's a nice bonus. Maybe you're going to wait until you get that big attack hand to bring him back in, and then that way you can take out the dragon or a city. So, and then of course the agents being able to more player interaction of I'm blocking you with that allows for both a much more, I think, tailored deck experience and that extra little bit of player interaction.
Yeah, I think the Guild Vault is definitely like the biggest thing to add in here. And, I guess you could, depending on if you have the core set as well, you could probably say, I don't really like the agents that much, but I like the Guild Vault, or I like those things, but not this other thing. You could like kind of mix as you the new things that you like. But it does kind of feel like they really looked at the original game and said, what are the areas like, when you lose a city, it feels pretty bad and maybe it's hard to come back from that. Well, now you get a little bit of a perk. And, maybe sometimes you get, killed by randomness. You don't get the cards that you want. Now you can store a little card. So I like the way it seems like they really looked at what was there and what they could fine tune.
Right.
Without going overboard of like really overhauling the system or anything.
Yeah. And like I said, with the agents and that too, they also made more interactions because sure, you can store things there, but like, if I buy this card, I'm taking out your captain. So maybe don't always put your best card there.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee.
But just the fact that there's a bit more of just who can not buy and build the best deck. If you've played the base game, you're going to enjoy having these, and they're not way too complicated that you feel like you're playing a whole new game.
Yeah. So if you are interested in backing Volfyirion Guilds, there's actually a bunch of interesting options they've got for this Kickstarter. Of course, we're going to have the link below so you can check it out for yourself. But if you're someone who has backed previous campaigns from Tabula Games in the Mysthia universe especially, or even with a Volfyirion game itself, there may be some perks for you. Like you might get some stuff for free, could get a free copy of the dragon miniature or the original core set. So check that out if you've ever backed any of their previous things. They've also got a whole new stretch goal system, which involves you're going to be able to play some of that stretch goal stuff on Board Game Arena and like choose teams and compete with other backers, which is cool. They've got a whole new system where you can invite friends and you'll get a discount if you invite friends to back as well. A lot of interesting new stuff they're trying, and it's a relatively cheap game. I think we determined it's like around 15 or 16 bucks USD. So it's a small game, small box, but if you like deck building games, especially the kind that are just head-to-head and competitive, where you're taking out each other's life points. This has got a cool, different kind of feel to it, and this, the fantasy theme and all the artwork you can see if you're into that kind of thing. Volfyirion Guilds and/or the original one is something you probably want to check out.
Let us know if you've ever backed into the previous projects and you are excited about these universe, and if you're taking part in the stretch goals and choosing which ones come to play. What side are you taking? We'd love to know why you think your team is the ones that's deserving of that stretch goal position.
Yeah, let us know in the comments below, and check out the Kickstarter, of course, see it for yourself. Until then, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this was our Roll for Crit preview. You know what would be great? If you liked this video and subscribed to our channel to stay tuned for more updates. You could also even go over to our Patreon page and support us there. We'll give you some really cool rewards in exchange for that. Or maybe you want to support us by buying some merch. You can check out our merch store where we are selling t-shirts with cool designs and other things too. Check it out.